Okay, welcome everyone. So my name is Rabbi Vogel, Gershon Vogel, originally from Baltimore, now living in Tzfat, thank Hashem. And I was asked to talk about a new class that we're going to be having here in the Alshech, which is on the Slonim Rebbe's Sefer, the Netivot Shalom. So to go in order, let's just start from the beginning. The Slonim Hassidut comes from a couple other Hassidut. So at first, Slonim is in Belarus, which is originally in Poland, and Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, the father of Hassidus, his Talmud was Rav Dov Ber, the Maggid of Mizrich, and then afterwards was Rav Aaron Hagadol Mikarlin, who's the author of the famous, beautiful song of Ka'ech Seif, not just the tune, but also the words. And then Rav Shlomo Mikarlin, his son, continued after that, and Rav Mordechai Lekevitz. From Rav Mordechai Lekevitz started his son, Rav Noach, was the Rebbe of the first Slonim Rebbe. The Slonim Rebbe was Rav Avram, who he authored the book Yesod Avoda, and then it goes down. He was actually a Talmud also of Rav Moshe Mikubrin. The reason I'm listing this is because we're going to see a lot of these things in the Sefer, B'ezrat Hashem, is going to be listed in the Sefer, all these Rebbes that were before him. So afterwards, we were going back to the first Slonim Rebbe was in the early 1800s. He was born, I think, in 1804. And then the second one was Rav Shmuel Weinberg. He was the grandson of Rav Avram, the first Rebbe. And then afterwards, Rav Yisachar Leib, who authored the Divrei Shmuel. Rav Yisachar Leib Weinberg authored a Sefer and called it after his father, the Divrei Shmuel. And then afterwards, there was his son, Rav Avram Yeshua Heschel Weinberg. And then there was Rav Noach Weinberg, interestingly, which we know of the Rav Noach Weinberg of most recent, of the head of Esha Torah. He actually is related to that family, and that's why there's you see there's name Shmuel, his brother, the Rosh Yeshiva of Netivot Yisrael, was also, his name was Shmuel Yaakov. And we know that, we see the names here, it's Shmuel, Noach. They were both, if they would have chosen, they would have been the next Slonim Rebbe, but they went more of in a Litvisher way. Then after that is Rav Notasio Slonim of Slonim. He was a grandson of Rav Avram, and then there was another Rav Avram who authored the Beis Avram. Actually, the Netivot Shalom, Rav Shalom Noach Berzovsky, actually wrote his Torahs down. I believe Rav Avram never wrote it down, and he compiled it. Rav Shlomo David Yeshua of Slonim was next. He was in Slonim and in Branovich. And Rav Mordechai Chaim of Slonim and Tiberio was the Talmud of the Beis Avram. And then we have Rav Ron Weinberg, who was the son of Rav Noach, who was also a student and a nephew of Rav Yisachar Leib. And he authored the Birkas Avram. And then the next Rebbe was the Frierdiker Rebbe of Shalom Noach, who authored Netivot Shalom. Rav Shalom Noach married the daughter-in-law, so he married into the family, but he had learned in, Shalom Noach was born in Branovich in 5671, which is 1911 in our time, in the Geisha timeline, and he was born to Rav Moshe Avram and Tzivia Brzezowski. And his father, Rav Moshe Avram, was the head of the Kehillah of Branovich, and Rav Shalom Noach, the Nesiv Shalom himself, learned in the yeshiva of Slonim, which actually was very unique because the yeshiva of Slonim had a mixture of both Chassidi and Litai. It was a mixture of both of them. And when he was about 19, the Slonim Rebbe, at that time, told him to write down the notes of the Shiurim, which was later known to be the Beis Avraham. And at 22 years of age, he moved to Eretz Israel, and that's when he married the daughter of the Weinberg Mishpacha of the Slonim. And in 1940, at the age of 29, he was appointed to be the Rosh Yeshiva of Achei Tamimim, which is a yeshiva of Chabad in Tel Aviv. And a year later, he opened up the yeshiva of Slonim, which we now have today in Yerushalayim. He started with 5 students, 5 Talmidim. In 1954, his father-in-law became the Slonim Rebbe until his passing and his patira in 1981. And that's when Rav Shalom Noach became the Slonim Rebbe. The Rebbe was best known for his work of the 7-volume set of the Nesiv Shalom, which was the Paths of Peace. But he actually worked very hard to bring together, first of all, to rebuild after the Holocaust, to rebuild the Hassidus of Slonim, and also to write down a lot of the traditions of Slonim and the Torahs of Slonim that were not ever committed to writing. So the book that we're going to be learning, the Nesiv Shalom, actually is a sefer that is really reached a lot of popularity throughout the different sects of Judaism, whether it be Litvish, Hasidish, modern, all types of walks of Jews love the sefer. And the reason why he first of all, he brings it down to our practical use, and really it's a perfect blend of passionate and inspiring Hasidus as well as Musar from more of the yeshivish world, and which is it was published in 1982, and it was found to be a very inspiring in many, many ways. First of all, he almost always brings up either Eretz Yisrael or Shabbos and how we can relate to how we can relate it to ourselves. And a lot of times we have different Hasidic talks which always can be related to our lives, but it's not so easy to be brought down to be in a practical use, and he does that. And the first time I heard of the Slonim Rebbe was by a Sephardi friend of mine, Iraqi, that I really, when he showed me the Sefer, I did not know that it was a Hasidic Sefer. I thought it was, I didn't know. And it was beautiful Divrei Torah, and he was showing it to me. Then I heard it from a different person, and then the lawyer that did the refinance of one of my homes, he basically said, "Did you see the Vart on the Nesiv Shalom this week?" I said, "No." He says, "Do you have a copy?" I said, "No." He says, "How don't you have a copy?" He's wearing this knitted yarmulke, and he knows I'm more Hasidish. He says, "Why don't you have it?" I said, "I'm sorry, I don't have it." And then, anyway, I ended up buying the Sefer right then, and I was hooked ever since. And I want to tell a story which is going to seem like it has nothing to do with the Slonim Rebbe, but I think we'll be able to understand how it is very related. So there was a story with Rav Shteiman. There was this boy who grew up very frum. He was, he had frum parents and frum siblings. Everybody was totally frum. And in his teenage years, I think he was about 17 or 18, where he totally went off the derech. Slowly but surely, but then he went off the derech completely, and he wasn't even keeping Shabbos. One time he came home for Shabbos to his parents and in Bnei Brak. And when he came home, they didn't expect anything of him. He was going to come home, eat, sleep, and that was about it. Came Friday night, late at night, on Shabbos, he went to the roof and he was smoking on Shabbos. The next day, his father goes to shul, doesn't ask him to come to shul, nothing, he knows. But he just gave him a lot of love, and he told him in the afternoon, after the meal, he said, I'm going to Rav Shteiman. I'm going to go to his shir. Would you like to come? So the people looked at him and said, like they didn't say anything, but why would he ask a person that was smoking on Shabbos and now he's going to go on Shabbos afternoon shir? But the bigger surprise was the son's answer. The son's response was, yeah, I'll come. Couldn't believe it. So they went to the shir, they walked together, and then during the shir, he sat through the whole shir. At the end of the shir, the father comes and introduces the son to Rav Shteiman and is proud of him, even though he was clearly not from. And so Rav Shteiman asks him a couple questions. He says, for how long have you not been from? So he told him about 2 years. He says, in those 2 years, did you think did you have any thoughts of doing teshuvah? And, repenting to Hashem and coming back? So he says, yeah, I think so, yeah, I did. So he asked him, how long was that? Let's say in the 2 years, how long altogether was it? He says, I don't know. He says, altogether, give me an approximate time, what do you think? So he said, it was about 20 minutes. So Rav Shteiman says, wow. I am so jealous of those 20 minutes. That's what Rav Shteiman said, just of the thought. Later on, he ended up becoming religious. And he's returning back to his roots, and became religious. And what happened was, they asked him, they finally had the guts to ask him, why did your father asked a crazy question that you should go to the shiur, and you were smoking at night on Shabbos, and now you said yes. Why? He says, I'll tell you a story. This is a story in a story. So he says that when I was in 3rd grade, my Rebbe brought me to Rav Shteiman to show. We finished, I don't know, one of the parshios or whatever it was, and everybody supposedly knew what they learned, and he was going to Rav Shteiman, and Rav Shteiman was going to give them encouragement and test them to see what they knew. So he was asking questions to everybody, all the children, and when every question that was answered, Rav Shteiman gave them a candy. So what happened was that Rav Shteiman came to ask him a question, and he didn't know the answer. So later on he asked him another question, but this time it was easier, and he also didn't know the answer. And then he asked a third time, and he didn't know the answer. So obviously he was quite embarrassed. And not only that, all the other children got candies. He didn't get anything. It was time to leave. And everybody's getting up to leave, as this boy as well. And all of a sudden, Rav Shteinman calls him. He says, I want you to stay with me for a little bit. So he thought he was going to be upset at him, that he didn't know any answers. He comes and he sits. He tells him to sit right near Rav Shteinman. Rav Shteinman puts his arm around him and he says, he takes out 3 candies. And he says, these are for you. So the boy was, what? Why do I get 3 candies? Like, he didn't say anything, but he was happy. But so Rav Shteinman explained. He says, Hashem doesn't test us on our results of what we know and this. He tests us on our effort. So the more effort we put out, that is what Hashem gives us reward for. So you tried 3 times. You didn't answer. That doesn't matter. They only tried once and they answered. But you tried 3 times, therefore you get 3 candies. And he says, that's why I went to Rav Shteinman's shir. And why is that? What does this have to do with Rav Shalom Noach Brzezowski? It seems like, Rav Shteinman was pretty much a Litvisher Rav. He was not at all Hasidish as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong, correct me. But I heard this story. The reason why it's connected, why I feel it's very connected, is because I heard this story from a friend of mine named Rav Avi Fishoff. Rav Avi Fishoff works with children that have gone off the derech and that are on all types of substance abuse. And actually, Rabbi Dr. Avram Twersky Zatzal was very amazed in his work that he knew that's what he got his degree on. Rav Avi Fishoff doesn't have a degree in that, but Rabbi Dr. Avram Twersky, that's what his life was, to help people get off of drugs and alcohol abuse and whatever. And Avi Fishoff, he heard about Avi Fishoff, couldn't believe that he had a 96% success rate in getting the children back with their parents, as well as back to Yiddishkeit and off of the drugs. And he couldn't believe it. And what did he base everything on? Avi Fishoff based everything. He didn't have any degrees. He just based off of the Netivot Shalom. And that story I heard about Rav Shteinman was basically what's it about? What does the Netivot Shalom have that makes everyone love him, and not only that, makes Avi Fishoff so successful in bringing children away from substance abuse and back to their parents and back to their roots. And in a nutshell, it is unconventional love, not just unconditional love, that, even though you do this, that, and the other, even so, I still love you. But unconventional love, meaning, as Rav Avi Fishoff explains, unconventional love means that I actually love you because of the way you are right now. Whatever it is, with all the things, not even though, but all of you and one. That's the way I love you. And there's the 2 books that he co-authored, Avi Fishoff, are based all in the Netivot Shalom, and he brings other Rabbanim as well to be able to prove that this is correct, but it's all based on the Netivot Shalom. And so in the ending, I just want to sum up. Usually his Divrei Torah are not very short. The Divrei Torah of the Netivot Shalom take a good half hour, about, if not more, depending on the length of them. But I just want to sum up something for Parshas Bamidbar, where we see that Hashem talks about the Bechor of that belongs to Hashem. Hashem says that all the Bechorim belong to me. At what point did it become that it should belong to me? Hashem saying, after I killed all the Bechorim of Mitzrayim, And then I made the Bechorim of Bnei Yisrael, because I saved them, I made them mine. And that's why we have Pinyan Ben. But the question is, what is the connection here between killing the Mitzrayim's Bechor and also making the Bnei Yisrael's Bechorim actually holy? So he says in the name of the Beis Avram that Bechor means a pleasure, enjoyment. And there's another word for another, besides being the firstborn, but it's also it's actually another translation for the word is pleasure. And what does it mean of pleasure? We have different types of pleasures. We have pleasures of the mind, read a book. We have pleasures of the heart. We have pleasures of actually the limbs of our bodies. So being the fact that when we see in the Torah, Hashem not only killed the Bechor of Paro, that's that, the king, the Bechor of the king, but on top of that, he also killed the Bechorim of the people, the lowlives of Mitzrayim at that time, the people that were captives, and obviously not the Jews we're talking about, but people that were in Mitzrayim for another reason, and they had firstborn sons, they were also killed. And then also the Bechor of Behema. So the Netivot Shalom explains that how do we understand that for us? What is it? Why do we have to know that he killed the Bechorim of Paro, the Bechor of the captives, and also the Bechor of Behemoths? And he says, of the animals, he says that the reason is because it's teaching us that there is 3 different levels of enjoyment. There's the level of enjoyment of our mind, which is like the highest level of Bechor, which is the Bechor of the Paro, and then there's the next level, which is the Bechor of captives, which is the enjoyment of our heart, which is connected more to our physical and materialistic pleasures. And then finally, the Bechor of the Behema, which is the pleasures of our limbs. And he says that the way that we can understand this and bring it to our own lives is that just like Hashem, first, what did he do? He took care of in order to be able to make us his Bechor, right? Meaning my son, my Bechor is Hashem's. How did he make that? Because the first time, before that, what he did was he actually he killed the Mitzrayim. He got rid of the klipa and the impurity of the Mitzrayim in their midst. And then he was able to go ahead and make the Bechorim of Bnei Yisrael holy. So the same way, the Netivot Shalom explains, the same way that we see that Hashem did that, and Hashem took care of the bad first, took out the bad, and then he was able to make us holy, so too, we have the directive of Sur Meira Va'aseh Tov, to take away, to steer away from the bad and do good. And in order to do that, we have to understand the same thing, that we have to work on ourselves. Sometimes we need to do it. Sometimes if we feel so down and so depressed, we have to do good first in order to be able to uproot to feel that we really are uprooting ourselves from the bad. But they really work simultaneously. Both the bad and the good, that we have to take away the bad and do the good, we have to work simultaneously, and we have to do our best to make sure that we're following in Hashem's footsteps to be able to uproot our own Mitzrayim that's within us, our own evil traits, our evil habits, and to work towards the good. And I heard, this is from actually the Chose of Lublin. I forgot exactly the details of the story, but the Chose of Lublin says that a perfect time to ask for that is right before Kiddush of Leil Shabbos. That we should ask right before Kiddush, Leil Shabbos, the Kiddush of Friday night, we should ask Hashem that we should make sure to only do His will, only give Him pleasure, and not, God forbid, the opposite. We should all be zocha to be able to come to that madrega and bring the Geula Shlema B'mheira B'yameinu. Amen.